Indy's youngest overcomes penalties and gets to sip the milk. The Wonder Kid doesn't win NASCAR's longest race. The King gets to wear his crown twice. And we've got a story to cool down this hot Memorial Day weekend. Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Patterson, and the Indianapolis 500 is billed as the greatest spectacle in all of racing, no doubt about that. But it's also been one of the most unusual and intriguing months leading up to this year's event. Penske drivers Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. missed the show. Then on Carburetion Day, the unproven Hondas were among the fastest, while the Menards had pop-off valve problems. Many experts had trouble predicting a winner with any confidence, and as Mark Allen tells us, this year's race had many memorable moments.
And Pat, some of those moments won't be pleasant ones. The usual pomp and circumstance that makes this one of the great shots in all of motorsports soon gave way to first-lap violence. The start itself was very good as the front two rows sorted out nicely, but behind them Stan Fox hit the rumble strips and then turned Eddie Cheever into the wall. It was a wicked crash that collected 6 cars in all. Everyone but Fox is okay. He was immediately sent to Methodist Hospital for head surgery. There are other incidents, but nothing near that bad. In fact, all were single car, with hard luck Michael Andretti getting just a little too high while leading. In the closing laps, Scott Goodyear, with all that Honda power that wasn't worth a flip last year, he's in front. Second place, Scott Pruitt hits some fluid and wipes out a possible winning car with just a handful of laps to go. Then it gets controversial. On the restart, Goodyear believes he sees the green light and shoots past the pace car to open up a big cushion. But race officials black flag him. He stays out, but within a couple laps, his scorecard is pulled. And that puts the blue car of Jacques Villeneuve in front. And he stays there through the checkered flag to win, while being the youngest driver in the field at age 24. He doesn't know and doesn't care at that point that Goodyear's car owner plans to protest the finish. So the results at the end of the race are Villeneuve the winner, Christian Fittipaldi second, Bobby Rahal third, Eliseo Salazar fourth, and Robbie Gordon fifth. This is Mark Allen reporting for On Pit Road, Final Edition.
Pretty strange race. All right, let's get you updated on Stan Fox's condition. He is in critical but stable condition. He is also under constant observation, which is routine in these situations, and all of our prayers are with he and his family. Now, about the results of the race. They became official at 8:20 Eastern, and Goodyear's team, Tasman Racing, had 1 hour to file a formal protest. None came, so Villeneuve is the undisputed winner of this year's Indy 500. Robbie Gordon's 5th place finish today after a variety of problems helped to further solidify his credentials as a top-notch racer, but he comes from a family that was made racing almost its whole life. Jerry Garrett has this profile of the Gordon family, which has made a very large name for itself in off-road racing as well.
Racing presents special challenges for families. Racer Robbie Gordon's family has faced those challenges and come out stronger for them. Gordon started his pro career in off-road racing, where drivers can share rides in 2-seat race cars or trade off driving chores in long races. Gordon's father, Bob, was already an established racer in the sport when Robbie started out. At first, he arranged co-rides for his son with other racers, but Robbie was so successful so quickly that Bob just as quickly changed that strategy.
Like right away, you know, Robbie won his first race, teamed up with Frank Arciero, and then I thought, well, heck, it's better that I team up with Robbie. Maybe I'll win a few more races also, and we did.
Co-driving together, Bob and Robbie led virtually every race they ever ran together. They won most of them. Robbie's aggressive driving style usually dictated that he either ran up front or ran into trouble trying to. Robbie's father and mother were divorced many years ago, but Robbie's racing has allowed them both to enjoy Robbie's many successes and to remain friends. His mother, Marlene, has always attended every race she could.
I've been at almost all the off-road races and motorcycle races. He was in the BMX before that, and it's just something we enjoy as a family.
And although Bob and Robbie don't co-drive anymore, Bob was in the pits when Robbie won his first IndyCar race at Phoenix earlier this year.
Oh, it was quite a feeling, you know. A little disappointed when he went down the lap and thought, boy, it's, you know, but I still thought Robbie still had a chance to win the race, but I knew it was going to be much tougher. But when he started putting the move on and really put on his racing helmet, boy, I knew that he was going to be real tough, and it was real exciting. It really was.
Watching Robbie off-road race was never a concern for his mother, but when Robbie moved on to pavement racing, she felt differently.
Actually, it didn't make me real happy. I used to be more afraid until he won at Phoenix, and now everybody's happy, so it doesn't matter. I absolutely love the off-road. Watching him come through the desert is the most exciting thing for me, and standing back and watching the dust come, and you're hearing an engine and you're really not sure what car it's going to be. You can just see the dust, and then all of a sudden as they get closer and closer and you can feel it in your chest as the trucks go by, I just love that. I absolutely love it.
Robbie also has two sisters, Robin on the left and Becky there on the right. His sisters, along with his mother, are also involved in Robbie's racing. They crew his apparel trailer at the races, while Marlene buys the merchandise and stocks the trailer. Marlene says the trailer is not just a business opportunity for them, though.
Oh, it's been fabulous. Robin and Becky, Robbie's younger sisters, help me in there. Robin works in the office, and then Becky comes to the races and sells, and we absolutely love it. And it makes it nice for the fan, too. They can come up and ask a question and get a sincere family answer, not just from someone working in there for the day.
Although Bob and Marlene are proud of their racing son and their two enterprising daughters, Marlene wants to make it clear there's not a fourth child in this family.
Our number one question in the trailer is Jeff Gordon and Robbie Gordon related? And we say no, but it must be somewhere way back.
And Robbie had a lot better day than Jeff did. A lot more of that coming up. We'll tell you about it. Coming up, as a matter of fact, in just a moment, we'll talk about tomorrow's IMSA Lime Rock race, where some changes have been made. We'll explain all of that right after this. Racers in both the IMSA and SCCA series were idle today in Lime Rock, Connecticut, for two reasons. The first, there's no point in running when everybody wants to watch the Indy 500. And second, the local ordinance doesn't allow for the track to have only so many dates on Sunday. But when the IMSA, Exxon World Sports Car, and Exxon GTS cars roll out tomorrow afternoon, they'll be running with some new rules that were first instituted last weekend in Halifax, Nova Scotia. First up, the WSC cars must run their headlights at all times, while the GTS cars have stickers on their rear bumpers designating which classes they're running in. Both series race tomorrow at Lime Rock, which is one of the most challenging courses. Here's a look at yesterday's qualifying.
James Weaver and his Ford-powered car were good, but not quite good enough. The World Sports Car pole honors went to Wayne Taylor, who bested the Ford team by little more than a quarter mile per hour around the 1.5-mile Lime Rock Park course. Taylor hasn't won yet this year, but that could all change tomorrow in the hour and 45-minute race.
You know, the race is going to be really hard because Weaver is certainly going to be bloody hard, and it's just going to be one of those races of attrition again, as I always say, and as long as we can be there at the end, we'll be good.
In the GTS 1 class, the top spot for the one-hour battle belongs to Darren Brassfield. He's winless so far this year as well, but has been making consistent enough runs to sit third in the points.
When we go down to qualifying, it's fun because Irv and I are so close in qualifying that we never know who it's going to be, and the Nissan always stands, you know, to throw a curveball at us. So we're real happy going into the race, starting 1-2.
Brassfield's teammate Irv Hare starts alongside.
Another change that occurred in the past 2 weeks in IMSA is the resignation of President Hal Kelly, which took effect just before the last round. Longtime series executive George Silverman takes over the presidency, and Friday we asked him to evaluate the progress that the World Sports Cars have made since their introduction last year.
We're very encouraged by the progress World Sports Car Championship has made. I always keep it in perspective. At the beginning of 1994, for all intents and purposes, this was a brand new series. And it came along more quickly than any other brand new sports car series in racing history. I think back to the last time we created a new series, which was our GTP era at the end of the 70s and early 80s. it was probably a good 3 seasons before we had 10 real GTP cars on the starting grid. It was not as evident at that time because the cars were running with GT cars in the same race. But yeah, we're very pleased. Obviously, it's a growing and developing product, but it's coming along very well.
One additional note, driver Jeremy Dale, injured in the road race at Atlanta earlier this month, is scheduled to be transferred to Indianapolis this coming Tuesday for further rehab on his battered legs. He's in good spirits and wants to thank everyone for their get well wishes. Coming up a little bit later in this show, we'll have highlights from a big weekend in racing in Charlotte, but right after some Super Truck and some NASCAR modified action. The NASCAR Super Truck Series made a swing into the central part of the country, and competitors were told when they first pulled into the I-70 Speedway that they would stay till Tuesday if necessary to get this one in. Well, rain did postpone the Saturday show one day. Some drivers might have wished it had pushed it back more. Jason Young reports.
In the opening laps, pole sitter Ron Hornaday Jr. is the leader, with Butch Miller in the Ray Bestis number 98 battling with Mike Skinner in the Goodwrench number 3 for the runner-up spot. The advantage goes to Skinner for second. Walker Evans causes caution number 1 on lap 27, and then it's Kerry Teague in the number 51 going for a slide and ending up axle deep in the mud. The biggest crash so far is this multi-truck smash-em-up up in turn 3. Sammy Swindell, Jerry Glanville, and Mike Bliss are all involved. The save of the day by far, though, goes to Hornaday in the Papa John Chevy. He does a complete 360, never misses a beat, and keeps it underway. Butch Miller isn't as lucky when Skinner gives him a tap on the backstretch. No real harm, and both are able to keep going. Up front, it's Joe Ruttman and Ernie Irvin's number 84 leading the pack, heading toward the 100-lap halfway break. On the restart for the second half, Ruttman gets loose but gets it back. Then Hornaday's Chevy goes up in smoke, throwing up a rolling roadblock to most of the field. Hornaday goes behind the wall, taking away any chances of a win in Missouri. Back underway, and it's not much better for Ruttman. His clutch is starting to slip, allowing a number of trucks to get by. John Kinder is the reason for the next yellow after he smacks the wall, and Jerry Churchill finds a not-so-great place to park with around 50 laps remaining. In the final laps, Dave Resendez and Jeff Bodine's XI Batteries number 7 is giving Skinner all he can handle. But handle it the Goodwrench driver does as Mike Skinner holds on for his 3rd Super Truck win of the year. 3rd is Butch Miller, followed by Joe Ruttman and Stephen Portengay.
Yeah, the NASCAR Featherlight Modified Tour was in Stafford Springs, Connecticut on Friday, and a familiar name got back into his winning ways.
We've got Mikey Winitsko and Carl Pasteryak on the front row as the 30 drivers have a few early problems keeping things on the straight and narrow. Joe Mamalito looks like he's more comfortable on the green than the gray. No caution there. But there is yellow for Tommy Curvino, and he's quickly back in the fray. Pasteryak takes the point for only a couple of circuits before Mike Stefanik takes his number 6 to the top spot. He'll camp there most of the rest of the night. Just before halfway, Bruce D'Alessandro triggers a yellow, and then deeper into the contest, Reggie Ruggiero's disappointing season takes another wrong turn. The big wheel banger comes when Crivino, Tony Papali, and Ruggiero again come together. The 44 car is the only one sidelined. From there, Stefanik is still in front, but Charlie Pasteryak is on a mission and gets by Steve Park for second. He closes in on the Rhode Island driver, but can't do anything with him when it counts, as Stefanik wins for the first time this year. It's also his 28th career modified win and his first mod win in 18 months. Here's a look at the top 5 as Iwanetsko maintains a narrow lead in the points over Tony Hirschman.
And the annual USAC night before the 500 action was delayed until Sunday evening by weather, and Mamo Gidley won the Formula Ford 2000 portion of the show. Earlier in the week, the first East-West Super Modified show was run at the Indiana Capitol.
It's the first ever East versus West Super Modified shootout taking place at the Indianapolis Raceway Park. Randy Bauer in the 78 leads early with 05 Pat Abel close behind. Then Dan Hayes blows an engine and causes Abel to shoot right into the wall. Others involved include Joe Moriarty and Jeff Helton. Just after the restart, the dominant car of Bauer loses a right rear tire, ending his reign at the top. Now it's the eastern side's turn to flex a little muscle. The new leader is Doug Didero. He's closely followed by Joe Gosick, Helton, Bentley Warren, and Mike Ordway. Didero and Gosick pull away for a few laps when the lapped car of Brian McLeese taps the leader. Didero almost catches it, but he can't. This ends the day for both on lap 28. This gives Helton the lead, but the black 11 has a tire going down. Warren, now second, moves in and takes over the point on lap 32. From there, Bentley Warren is unstoppable, holding on for the win in the very first East versus West shootout.
He had a push and I had a push, and I tried a couple laps earlier before the accident, and then after that I tried it one more lap before I passed him, and I saw where I could do it, and he gave me enough room.
Second goes to Helton, followed by Mike Ordway, Rebel Jackson Jr., and Scotty Backman.
And right after this, we've got sprint car action from several points of the compass. For long in sprint car racing, the good man in this case is Steve Kinser, and most people know he's a lot better than good. He proved it again this past weekend in Pennsylvania.
Lernersville Speedway Tuesday night, and it's Outlaws regulars against the Pennsylvania Posse. On the point for the 35-lap feature, the Kinsers. And it doesn't take long for the king of the Outlaws to test the other Kinser. And how good is Stevie K after the layoff? A bit later, he comes off turn 4 and scuffs the front stretch wall and gives up a few feet. Same lap, turn 3, and he jumps the cushion, but closes right back up on his cousin. He may be rusty, but he's still the best. And he's still the man with more testosterone when it comes to driving deep into the turns. This move puts him in front to stay. But there is a tense moment for the number 11. Andy Hillenberg tags the wall right in front of him, and Mark Kinser's the one who does some donuts. The other Kinser goes on to his first win since returning from NASCAR, and haven't we seen this shot a few times before? Next stop on the tour, Williams Grove Speedway, and you've got Mark Kinser and Pennsylvania standout Lance Deweese trading notes. Both are the top winners in their respective sprint car worlds this year. Mark Kinser again the top qualifier for the 9th time this year and the early leader. But once again, he can't elude trouble in front when Lynn Thompson gets out of shape. Kinser gives up the point to Stevie K again. A bit later, Andy Hillenberg flips, and this one's not done yet. Lance Blevins and Joe Gertie show up, and Hillenberg's the one done. Another one that should have been a single-car deal but isn't is Randy Hannigan's layover. Blevins gives the one car a pretty good lick, but all are okay. The 11 cars in front again at the finish, and that prompts a fair question.
Any easier the second time to win?
Oh, well, I don't know. It seems like when you get things going your way, it does seem a little easier, but it's not, it's not going to be easy, but we're getting the car a lot better, and we're starting to figure out what we need and what this car likes, and, we're just now getting everything gelling a little bit. It's hard to do it in a couple weeks, but I think for out of the box, we got a pretty good race team just coming out, putting this thing together as fast as we did, and we're real happy with the way we're running.
Haudenschild takes second with Lasowski, Swindell, and Hodnett the top 5. In Saturday's Hagerstown feature, Mark Kinser finally turns the tables on Steve, who's second. Hod, Andy, and Stevie Smith are next.
It's good to see the King back at work. And last weekend, we didn't have a chance to show you some of the action from the Knoxville Raceway. While we're on the subject of sprint cars, let's take care of that.
The 410 show at Knoxville had some interesting moments, to say the least. First of all, track standout Terry McCarroll fails to make the feature after suffering a bent nose wing early in the night. Then Doran Doty's top wing collapses heading down the backstretch. And by the time it's all over, his sprinter goes flipping over the wall. One of the best performances of the night has to go to number 55, Craig Dolansky, who barely makes it into the main show as an alternate. He starts dead last, but puts on an impressive charge through the field to make the top 5. Number 3, Jeff Tuttle, is the early leader in this one after starting on the front row. But at the halfway point, Johnny Herrera slips by in his lucky number 5 machine and holds on the rest of the way to become the 5th different winner in 5 weeks of racing.
Well, you know, he got pretty slick there, and that 3-car there, he had me worried there for a few laps there at the first of the race there. But I knew once we got into lap traffic and I kind of got settled down, you know, in the car there, we'd be all right. I mean, I knew that if I seen at 55 got to start the feature, I knew he'd be starting in the back. But I had to start in the back last week, and I only got to second, so I knew he'd have his work cut out to get up there. But you know, we had the car, you know, guy had the car working real well tonight, and you know, I had no complaints.
Skip Jackson winds up second with Delansky an impressive third. Marlon Jones and Jerry Richard are fourth and fifth as Tuttle drops out of the top 5.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And in just a few moments, our focus will shift to the late model ranks as On Pit Road, final edition, rolls on. Several touring late model series that attract some of the top talent in the country, and certainly one of those would have to be the NASCAR Slim Jim All-Pro Series. It's the oldest major touring series out there, and we're happy to be joined by the current points leader, Hal Goodson. And you don't get to lead the points in this deal without doing some things right. You guys have got 2 second-place finishes already this year. How come everything seems to be working for you so far?
Well, we just started the year out good, and we haven't been racing much. We only ran 3 races, but we got good equipment this year, and you know, I got experience. So this is the 3rd year I've ran all the races, and you know, everything's going good, and we're looking forward to the rest of the year.
You got a good sponsor in Downtown Radio, and they've been with you for quite some time. People that don't know you might not know that you ran a lot in the Myrtle Beach area, and a couple, of course, up here at Concord when they run the Big Ten races. Late model racing seems to suit you. Did you do much racing before that?
No, I started out on dirt, and you know, we run late models. I've been doing about the same thing since about '87, and you know, the All-Pro Series is really taking off, and we're you know, we're going to Somerville next weekend, and
you had a good run down there last year.
Yeah, we ran second at Somerville last year, and you know, we're looking forward to going back. It's a good, tight racetrack, and you know, there's like 15 guys capable of winning these shows now, and it's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I notice when I go to the track and watch you guys run is just every race, it is just so close. I mean, within a tenth or 2 tenths separates the entire field, and I mean, I guess the hard part is how do you go to each one of these tracks and feel like you can have some consistency? Is that all just inexperience? Is that what, you know, gives you that feel?
Yeah, well, most of these tracks we've been to, I've been there 3 or 4 times, and you know, you get about what you run the time before. You need to go there. You don't get much practice, and you know, there's been 50 or 60 cars at every track we've been to, and you know, they've been sending 20, 25 cars home. So you know, you got to have your stuff together when you unload, because there's not much practice.
Hal, compare for me your all-pro race versus a normal Saturday night race at like a Concord or a Myrtle Beach or an I-70 or someplace like that. Yeah, is there any comparison at all to the kinds of what you got to do when you get to the track and what's got to happen in the race itself?
Well, you got to have your stuff fast, but with you know, like I said, with our cars, you got to be fast when you get there. And you know, regular Saturday night show, there might be 20 cars there, whereas with us, you know, we're starting 30, 32 on a half-mile asphalt track. So there's a lot of guys going home, so you better have your stuff ready when you unload.
Now, you're making a living at this. I mean, this is what you do full-time. Are there still a lot of guys that are still trying to work jobs and do this on the weekend, or is the competition slowly moving those people out of the way?
I don't know. I feel sorry for them if they are, because it's a full-time job. I mean, once we start racing next weekend at Somerville, we go to the middle of September with like 2 weekends off throughout the whole year. And you know, you're on the road sometimes Thursday and don't get home to Sunday night. And, you know, it's tough living, and, you know, it's a lot of fun, but, you know, if I had to hold down a full-time job and do this too, it'd be tough.
Final question for you. Do you feel like you're growing behind the wheel of the car as a driver? I mean, every year, do you feel like Hal Goodson's getting to be a better driver?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot more experience. You know, we're shooting for a championship. We're leading the points right now, and, you know, I want to win races now. It's too early to worry about points right now, but, you know, we plan on winning Somerville next year and win 4 or 5, you know, next few weeks. And yeah, that's what you shoot for now, and worry about points later, you know, with 3 races to go or something. But yeah, we're looking forward to a good year.
Great. Appreciate you coming up, spending some time with us. Enjoy the race down in Somerville. We'll keep chronicling your racing throughout the rest of the year. Hal Goodson. All right, and another of the notable late model series out there is the Hooters Cup. Friday night, the series doubled the laps to 200, increased the winner's check to $10,000, and had a mid-race break.
This is one of those races where you just knew something big was going to happen. The draw has Gary Ballou on the pole and Dick Anderson outside him. The last time these drivers met, Ballou was in the fence with the wrecked race car, but the pair behaved themselves nicely in the early going, as does just about everybody else. The big shunt in the first half collects 4 cars, including first-round winner Bobby Gill and most recent winner John Crow, who was unable to continue. With a mandatory mid-race break on the horizon, you'd think there would be no reason to force the issue, and you'd be right, with a couple of minor exceptions. At halfway, it's Ballou in front of all 100 laps, and if it had ended here, this one would have been a snoozer. But 4 laps after the intermission, and top 10 runners Darrell Shelnut and Mario Gosselin get together. The series number 2 points man is done on the spot. Number 4 in points Gosselin limps on for a while before giving up. Tack on 10 more laps and hang on to your seats. Anderson's strong enough to get to the high side. Ballou's stout enough to hold the bottom. It's IBM time again. You make the call. Somebody at fault here? Just racing? One thing's for sure, the 98's a mess after Jimmy Cope just missed missing Anderson. 4 of the top 5 cars are affected in some way. As for Anderson,
what is it he says? What comes around goes around. It ain't over.
So on the restart, almost by default, Mike Garvey's the leader. This isn't really a fluke because the series points leader is fastest qualifier. He's sporting a new paint job, while second place Mike McCrary's sporting a new car and the 00. The lapped machine of Toby Porter is the leader's biggest threat as he's literally knocking the front end off his car trying to unlap himself for a while. But soon, he too is out. The big charge through the field comes from 2 well-known veterans. Gill comes from a lap down to get himself into the top 5 for a few moments. Jody Ridley again has to run the last chance qualifier and comes from 22nd up to 8th. But at the 3/4 mark, 8th is as high as he'll get. McCrary surely wins some fans with his persistent and varied challenge to Garvey, but the winner of round 5 opens up just enough of a cushion to prevent any possible contact on the last lap and become the first multiple winner in 7 races. Gill got up to 4th at the end for the best move forward. Except for the winner, the other finishers posted their best efforts of the season. Less than half the field was running at the finish.
Coming up next, a full dose of Winston Cup and Busch Grand National Racing from Charlotte. Stay with us in the race, but that's just what happened after Jeff Gordon won the pole Wednesday for the Coca-Cola 600. Mark Martin said the only way the DuPont driver might be beaten is if he's running on 7 cylinders. Now, let's find out if Martin and the rest of the field were right in Sunday night's race.
Pole sitter Jeff Gordon and second place Bobby Labonte have a great early battle for the top spot, but by lap 5, it's the DuPont driver out front. Brett Bodine finds out where the outer limits are. He makes a pit stop and keeps going without too much damage. On pit road, the 24 has a brake problem which drops Gordon off the lead lap. It's the beginning of the end with less than 100 laps complete. The first caution waves when new leader Todd Bodine gets together with Ward Burton in turn 2. Burton is done, Bodine keeps going around lap 70. And now it's big trouble for Gordon when the wheel hub breaks on the right front side. This causes the second yellow and takes away any hopes of back-to-back 600 wins. Bill Elliott's day ends in turn 1 when the black McDonald's number 94, nicknamed Thunderbat, slams the wall. Elliott's okay, but done for the day. Rusty Wallace has his day end in about the same spot after contact from Robert Presley in the Skull Bandit number 33. Again, the driver is all right. Last fall, Charlotte winner Dale Jarrett had been running well, but behind the wall goes the Texaco number 28 nearing halfway with a rear end problem. Through the middle stages of the 400-lap race, the driver most difficult to keep up with is Ken Schrader in the Budweiser number 25. Bobby Labonte and Dale Earnhardt mix it up on lap 295. Labonte gets the lead for the moment. Heading into the final 50 laps, Schrader has the 25 back out front, but the engine lets go, ending his day. This gives the lead back to Labonte. While a number of front runners had to stop for fuel, not Bobby Labonte. He has enough to go the distance and takes his first career Winston Cup win for Interstate Batteries. Second goes to brother Terry Labonte with Michael Waltrip third. Fourth and fifth is Sterling Marlin and Ricky Rudd.
You just knew Bobby was going to get one soon. Glad to see it happen tonight. Now, Saturday's Grand National race wasn't exactly run under Chamber of Commerce conditions, but what the 300 lacked in atmosphere, it made up for in mayhem.
43 cars take the green in the Red Dog Beer 300, with first-time Busch pole sitter Rich Bickle leading the field at the drop of the green. Last week's Nazareth winner Tim Fedewa is off the pace with a blown engine early. Then the pole sitter Bickle is on pit road with a flat tire. Now it's big trouble on lap 33 for points leader Johnny Benson when he gets a shove from Rick Wilson. Once again, we have proof of how vital the roof flaps are. Kenny Wallace, Rodney Combs, Dennis Setzer, and Tim Bender are also collected in the afternoon's second yellow flag. Back to green, and it's 3 wide down the backstretch. Jason Keller in the middle, Hermie Sadler outside, Steve Grissom inside. This won't work, and it's Sadler's DeWalt Tool Chevy paying the price in turn 4. Sadler's okay. Defending series champ David Green's day isn't going any better. He's out a few laps later shaken, but otherwise the Slim Jim driver is okay. Back to green with Mike Wallace, Chad Little, and Mark Martin leading the way with 59 laps complete. But Wallace's reign at the front doesn't last very long when the Duran Paints number 90 loses the grip and goes around. Wilson has nowhere to go and is also involved. Both are done for the afternoon. Now it's raining all over the mile-and-a-half Charlotte Motor Speedway, but not bad enough to throw the yellow. You know, there might be a squeeze play in baseball, but nothing like this. How Elton Sawyer missed Ken Schrader and Little is anybody's guess. Sawyer's done, but okay. And it's a good thing the extra-strength Bear car wasn't collected. In the rain-soaked final laps, Chad Little fights off a determined Jeff Green for his 4th win of the season. Behind Little and Green, it's Tracy Leslie, Mark Martin, and Ken Schrader.
Thanks, J-Man. Chad's win closes him to within 128 points of Benson, who finished out of the top 10 for the first time this year. One other note from the race, David Green has a cracked right shoulder blade, and his status for next Saturday's stop in Dover, Delaware is uncertain at this time. Now stay with us. Coming up next, more stock car action from here and there. Driving school and you yourself race, you'd better win once in a while. It's good for business, and that's just what happened in ARCA Saturday night.
On a quarter-mile paved oval, there's never much room to maneuver or time to breathe. That's what it's like at Flat Rock Speedway. The most dominating leader is Frank Kimmel, who's been hanging around in the top 5 in points all season and leads more than 3/4 of the show. There really isn't much fender leaning in this event, but Glenn Brewer does get turned around before mid-race. And how about this? 3 wide a bit later for the lead as the 1 of Marvin Smith and the 11 of Andy Hillenberg, the North Carolina driving school owner, bring the fans to their feet with a fine duel up front as Kimmel fades. It goes back and forth for a few laps before Hillenberg gets in front for good and gets his 2nd win of the year. Bobby Bowsher gets 3rd, Bob Schacht is 4th, and Gibson 5th. The win helps Hillenberg stretch his lead to 40 points over Schacht.
You know, one thing is always certain about the Sportsman's Series when it comes to Charlotte. There's always plenty of wreckers standing by, and many of these drivers sometimes get a rude introduction to super speedway racing. That was the case Wednesday night.
One of the most familiar names in the NASCAR Sportsman division is Sherry Minter. She's still trying to become the first woman to win a super speedway race of any kind. And if not for some situations out of her control, she would probably already have done it. Here she takes the top spot away from the pole sitter Marty Ward in the Hooters number 97. The first yellow waves when California driver Leo Henry loops the 34 in turn 4. He's able to keep going. A few laps later, Robbie Faggart proves what won't work in turn 2. However, he does a great job not collecting anyone else. Minter had opened a pretty good lead, but Ward is back on the offensive, pulling Jerry Rector in the 81 and Wally Fowler by, dropping the 61 to 4th. Now there's a new charger in the top 5. Lester Lesneski started 8th and is right on the heels of the leader. Then the hardest hit of the night is received by Don Satterfield. He gets a shove from Matt Mullins in the 21. Bubba Urban on the high side is definitely in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now the hard hit. The cars start back down the track and Tim Neighbor slams hard into the 1. Miraculously, no one is seriously injured in the crash. Back to green with Lesneski out front and Ward in hot pursuit. But pursue is all Ward can do as Lester Lesneski holds on for his first NASCAR Sportsman win. Third goes to Wally Fowler, followed by Gary Layton and Jerry Rector. On Saturday, the Duran Paints 100 for the Sportsman cars. They were on the track just before the Red Dog Beer 300, and it's Wally Fowler taking the win. Second goes to Lesneski with Ward, Rector, and Layton rounding out the top 5. For On Pit Road Final Edition, I'm Jason Young reporting.
Lester Lesneski, never more a better racing name than that. When we come back, we're headed back to the dirt, so don't go away. The only hour-long motorsports news and highlights television show. The Narc Boys got it cranked back up over the weekend, and here's a look at Saturday night's big racing.
Number 3, Paul McMahon, has a tough start to his evening when his motor seizes on his second qualifying lap. The motor change is done in time for him to get into the heat and transfer to the feature. He does get a break when the 8-inversion pill draw puts him on the pole with Mr. California Brent Kading alongside. Give the point to McMahon early. Paul was so good he laps up to the 9th place, but brother Bobby has a tire go down while running 3rd. On the restart, this incident goes from yellow to red as everyone needs fuel. Mama McMahon has her fingers crossed for her hubby Paul, so does their son. He's well clear of this tangle among Bobby McMahon and Nathan McDonald that collects Tim Green. In the final dash, McMahon has enough to hold off Steve Kent, who charged but couldn't close. Kading, Lund, and Lee Brewer are the top 5.
Meanwhile, the Club All-Stars got all of one show in and part of another.
There must be something about the dirt in Michigan that Joey Saldana likes. He watches the 00 of Danny Smith jump out front from the green, but by the 11th lap, the 77 driver is all over the leader and past him, and there's little anybody else can do from there. Saldana had won in the Wolverine State earlier in the month, and he took the win at the newly reopened Hartford Speedway. Dale Blaney is second with Kenny Jacobs third, Keith Kaufman fourth, and Kelly Kinzer fifth. The next night, the top 2 cars from the night before go at it again. This time they're real close to each other as the 94 driver is leading early. But Saldana has got the Millstream Speedway figured out, and he makes a nice move inside coming off turn 2. From there, it's all Saldana, who had also set fast time. Blaney's again second with Kaufman, Reed, and Kinzer in the top 5.
Meanwhile, back west in the SCRA Series, one of the famous names in wingless racing history came out of retirement.
Recognize him? If you're a CRA fan from the 70s and 80s, you know that's Dean Thompson with 103 non-wing feature wins. And he's racing for the first time in a decade. He'll not only qualify, but finish a respectable 15th. The feature is 30 laps, and Manzanita Speedway terror Leland McSpadden is on the pole, which is bad news for everybody else. The track is dry slick, so passing's tougher than usual, and Mike Kirby in the 59 is the only one who ever gives the Tempe Tornado cause for concern. Okay, so Rodney Argo gets McSpadden's attention too, but he's fine, and McSpadden is a lot better than that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've had a really fast car all year everywhere we've gone, but we just haven't had much luck anywhere but here. Here we've been fortunate to read the traffic right, get the brakes we needed, and be able to win out here. Now, I've got a lot of laps on this racetrack, so it helps, but I've won a lot of the short track races on the coast, too, and we just can't seem to have any luck over there. We get to the front, get taken out by lap cars, you know, stuff like that, but we'll just keep pecking away and see what happens at the end of the year.
Schumann gets third with the Ripper fourth and J.J. Yaley fifth. From the companion AMRA race, our vote for the aerobatics of the weekend go to Bob Brosman, who gets tagged by Charlie Davis Jr., and 6.5 flips later, he'll land without injury. Corey Kruseman wins the race.
Now, coming up in a few minutes, we'll have the thoughts of some drivers on tomorrow's Trans Am race in Connecticut and a preview of a 1996 race. You don't want to miss this one. So running on the card tomorrow at Lime Rock Park is the SCCA Trans Am Series. This year's field is a strong one, and Greg Creamer talked with some of the drivers about this 1.5-mile layout in our Rain-X Trans Am report.
I've only actually raced a Trans Am car there one time in '89 and had some problems and limped home, I think, 4th. But it's a whole different story now. This all-sport car has been really stout last year in this. We got a test in there. I think we were one of the few teams to test at Lime Rock, so I feel pretty confident.
You know, you talk about not having a tremendous amount of Trans Am experience there necessarily, but you've raced there a number of times and on the Memorial Day weekend, and that weekend they really seem to come out and support that event, don't they?
Well, and even more so this year. You know, a lot of people have asked me, what do you think about the IMSA and Trans Am together? And I know the sanctioning bodies are kind of battling back and forth about who's the main event. All that secondary. The race fan's the big winner, and I'm about as big a fan as you can get when I'm not driving, so I'm going to be up on the hillside watching. If you're a sports car fan, it's the best weekend in the last 15, 20 years, I would have to say.
You're right about the late start. The guys started to act more like Grizzly Adams. They had cabin fever so bad. We really wanted to get out there. We got lots of spares built, and I think we're ready for the war, and Trans Am's going to be a war.
Come off of Phoenix, had a pretty good run going there. Mosport is, most everybody knows, isn't one of my favorite places, but Lime Rock is. Lime Rock, Detroit, Portland are going to be hopefully real good races for us.
And of course, we'll have highlights on Pit Road Preview. That show's seen regularly on most of these Prime affiliates later this week. Now, here on this show, we'd like to look as far into the future as we can, and that brings us to the subject of our next story. A few months ago, before things began warming up in Alaska, racer and public relations specialist Billy Edwards did a pre-run of what could be one of the toughest races in the world next year.
You got a death wish or what? Such was the not-so-subtle opinion expressed by an associate of race rally driver and Focus on Racing syndicated personality Billy Edwards, here on the left, prior to his embarking on a recent pre-run of the Arctic Circle Challenge, a rally planned for February of '96. The brainchild of Edwards, the TSD rally will pit man and machine against nature and the clock. The proposed route is from Anchorage to Prudhoe Bay on the Arctic Ocean and back, with stops in Fairbanks and, appropriately, Coldfoot. The route north from Fairbanks will utilize the Dalton Highway, which opened to the public in December for the first time in 20 years. The road is used as a supply and maintenance route for the workers on the Alaska Pipeline. The pre-run's purpose was to determine where exactly along the route the TSD competitions will take place and to identify potential dangers to competitors, and those could be numerous and severe. Indeed, Edwards and his two-vehicle six-person team did endure extreme weather with wind chills as low as 69 degrees below zero. Add to that blowing snow driven by winds in excess of 30 miles an hour, almost 2-foot-high snow drifts, steep mountain roads, whiteouts, and constant danger from avalanches, and you end up with quite a challenge for the Ford BFG Eddie Bauer-sponsored 95 Explorers Edwards used for the pre-run. Depending on the weather, the round trip could take competitors 36 hours or 4 days. After arriving at the Arctic Ocean in Prudhoe Bay, Edwards learned one thing about the Arctic. You never know what's going to happen because there's only one boss, nature.
Only if I get a guest shot on northern exposure. That's the only way. I don't suppose there'll be any overheating problems with that one either. I didn't say that. That's going to do it for tonight, this Memorial Day weekend. Once again, the big winners today in racing were Jacques Villeneuve in the Indianapolis 500 and Bobby Labonte in the Coca-Cola 600. Until next week at the same time, I'm Pat Patterson. Have a great holiday weekend.